Picture a completely ordinary evening. You tell your partner you felt alone at dinner because they spent the entire night looking at their phone. It's a simple sentence expressing a perfectly valid feeling. But within 60 seconds, the dynamic flips entirely. Now you find yourself comforting them because they are spiraling about how they can never do anything right, how everyone always makes them the bad guy, and how incredibly exhausted they are from constantly being under attack. By the end of the night, you are apologizing for your timing, and your loneliness has simply evaporated. If you have ever walked away from one of these exchanges feeling exhausted, vaguely ashamed, and not entirely sure why, that feeling has a name. It is the fog. This dynamic operates as a highly effective, invisible method of interpersonal control. You are on the receiving end without ever seeing the wire. Victimhood is usually understood as a passive state. A car hits you, a storm takes the roof, the world acts and you suffer. But for a specific group of people, feeling endlessly wronged across every relationship serves as a constant baseline, regardless of what actually happened. In 2020, researchers led by Rahav Gabai ran 8 separate studies. They identified a stable, measurable personality trait called the tendency for interpersonal victimhood. For these individuals, the wound serves as the structural core of exactly who they believe they are. To understand how this personality trait deflects solutions, look at this mechanical model with 4 distinct gears. First is a constant need for recognition. They actively reject practical solutions because the primary objective is forcing you to acknowledge their suffering. The second gear is moral elitism. They construct a psychological wall dividing the room. They are purely good and ethical, while everyone else is malicious. This ensures they never have to examine their own accountability. The third gear is an empathy deficit. Their absorption in their own catastrophe is so complete, it mutes their ability to register anyone else's pain. There is only room for one wound. The fourth gear is rumination. They replay old offenses on a mental loop, keeping every slight sharp, vivid, and ready to be produced as evidence exactly when needed. When these 4 gears run together, they construct a closed-loop reality where the individual exists in a perpetual state of being under attack. If their suffering appears exaggerated from the outside, why does it feel so intensely, disarmingly real to both them and to you? This timeline illustrates how people high in this trait process the world through 3 specific cognitive filters. Interpretation bias amplifies small, neutral oversights into deep abandonments. Attribution bias forces them to assume malicious intent in any ambiguous situation. And memory bias keeps them primed specifically for words like anger and betrayal. The pain they feel is entirely genuine to them. Because their distorted perception serves as their true reality, trying to correct their facts is perceived as a direct attack on their identity. Argue with them, and you guarantee your role as the villain. While many people run this cycle as an unconscious survival program formed in childhood, others use victimhood as a highly calculated strategy. In 2020, researchers identified a behavior called virtuous victim signaling, the loud public broadcasting of both a person's suffering and their absolute moral superiority. This radar chart maps frequent victim signaling against specific personality profiles. The data revealed a strong prediction for dark triad traits. The people most likely to announce their innocence and their wounds loudly were disproportionately the people highest in Machiavellianism and narcissism. The researchers identified this combination as amoral manipulation. The entire system operates to facilitate non-reciprocal resource transfer, a method of extracting sympathy, money, status, or loyalty from others without ever giving anything back. In these specific cases, the tears and the pleas to be believed function strictly as engineered lockpicks designed to force open your hand. So how do you protect yourself from a dynamic built on guilt without becoming the cold, heartless person they claim you are? The cardinal rule of escape is to stop arguing over the details of a single emotional wound. You cannot out-debate them on whether a specific event hurt them. Instead, you step back and observe the historical pattern. One betrayal is a story, a rotating cast of villains across 5 years where the subject is always the only innocent party and everyone else eventually fails them, is an undeniable pattern. Patterns reveal the objective truth that highly emotional, single stories are explicitly designed to hide. Once you see that shape, you can hold deep compassion for a person's pain while simultaneously holding a hard boundary against their narrative. You are allowed to care about someone's suffering. Real empathy never requires you to abandon your own memory of what happened, and it certainly does not require you to accept false blame for causing it. That fog of exhaustion and guilt you feel after talking to them serves as the residue of having your perception quietly overwritten. The moment you refuse to pay the emotional bill for a crime you didn't commit, that invisible leash goes slack. You stop mistaking guilt for love, and you take back control of your own mind.